Both of my parents lost their dads when they were little children. And so they were raised by single mothers, single working mothers, as a matter of fact. And there was so much poverty back in those days, their moms worked all the time. And there wasn't time for the bedtime stories or the field trips or the many things that we think of as being part of modern parenting. And in fact, my mother never even heard the words, "I love you," until she and my father started dating. And so when they got married, they both desperately wanted love. And they decided to create a situation in which there was unconditional love. And another thing they wanted was a family of 7 children. And yes, indeed, there were 7 kids. And we were all prolific, as a matter of fact. And so we had a strong family code of so much love, but we also had some rules within our family. Here's one of the rules. You cannot drive until you're 18 years of age. Now that's kind of a tough rule for a teenager, and you had to buy your own first car. And yes, they made us all follow that rule. You will pay your way through college, and yes, you will go to college, and we all went to college. And you'll pay for your own wedding, and we indeed all paid for our own weddings. But there was another part of our family culture, and it was, you will address social injustice. You will stand up for those people who are the most vulnerable and can't speak for themselves. And I think about my mother who modeled this, an introvert, a very quiet woman who tended to fade into the background. There was an African-American soldier who was killed in Vietnam, and his final dying wish was to be buried in Elmwood Cemetery, which was a white cemetery. And this infuriated my mother that the cemetery would not allow him to be buried there. And so she and members of many other churches all got together and marched on this cemetery until they changed their rule. And the reason why he wanted to be buried there was because his mom lived across the street. She didn't have a car. It was the only way that she could visit her son's grave. But my mother said this. She said, if you die for your country, you should be buried anywhere you darn well please. So we had this just amazing model. But we also stuck up to my grandmother, because my grandmother had a habit of using a slur word for African Americans. And we told her as little kids that she could not use that word. And I think about us as little kids actually saying that to our grandmother, but we again had this strong code within our family, and she quit saying the word. And yet, where was I not good at standing up for myself? Because I really didn't have any models of really how to handle personal conflict. Who were the big subject matter experts back then? The advice columnist. You know, the letters went like this. Dear Amy, I hate my mother-in-law. She's so mean. She criticizes my children. She criticizes the way I keep my house. She criticizes my cooking. What should I do? Signed, Upset. Dear Upset, never invite your mother-in-law to your house again, and you will tell her she will not see her children, your grandchildren grow up. So that was sort of the scorch the earth advice that was given out. Or leave an anonymous note. And I think there must have been a lot of anonymous notes left back in the day. So I really didn't have any sort of model to follow when it came to personal conflict. And I can remember in my early career days that I worked in an organization, and there was a man who was many levels above me, and he relentlessly sexually harassed me verbally for over 2 years. And I can remember lying in bed at night thinking, what did I do to deserve this? Am I dressing wrong? Is it things I'm saying? And I can remember going to my manager saying, hey, I need some help. Please talk to Bill. He said, oh, Sharon, that's just kind of how Bill is. And nothing was ever said to Bill by anyone, including me. And then later, I was in another career, another organization, and I was really challenged in terms of working with my manager. And I was failing. I wasn't doing a good job for him. And so I didn't have anyone in the organization to confide in, so I went to our external company psychologist for help. And I said, I need your advice. Tell me what I can do so I can do better with him. And he gave me some great advice. But before I could actually act upon this advice, 30 minutes later, my manager burst into my office. And he said, I just heard from our company psychologist. And he related the entire contents of our phone call. And I was in so much trouble. And I said, absolutely nothing. Well, turning to some happier times in my life, my husband and I had a daughter named Casey. And she calls herself the Joy Maker, and she certainly has lived up to that name. And we made some major decisions, and not only would we raise her with the culture of personal responsibility that we had growing up, but also we made another major decision that we were not going to be helicopter parents. Because frankly, I worked with a lot of colleges and universities, and they said, Sharon, we have got so many problems with the students that are showing up today. They're too fragile. They can't handle feedback. They don't do their own work. They're not resilient. They said, frankly, we have a bunch of teacups that are showing up. And it's really frustrating for us. And so we made a major decision that we did not want a teacup. Well, we got a test of this when Casey was little, as my curly-headed moppet. One morning, she woke up, and she did not want to change out of her pajamas into her uniform. And she and I tussled about it, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You get in the back seat. I'll put your uniform back there, and you've got to make a decision before you get to school about what you're going to wear. But I will tell you this, I will not bring your uniform later if you get in trouble. Well, luckily for her, she artfully, on the way to school, changed out of her pajamas and put on her uniform, and we never had that conversation again because she understood there was just no rescuing around here. And so no PJs to school. But then this amazing book came out, Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High. And my husband John and I made a major decision that we were going to incorporate this book into our child rearing. And so we taught Casey these skill sets. And there was a major test of this when she was a freshman in college. I got a phone call that went like this. Mom, you're not going to believe what happened today. Erin Easley, my best friend, called me and said that another girl that we know started a rumor about me that I was drunk on campus last night. You know that I don't drink. Now, lest you think I'm that stupid parent that thinks, oh, my child doesn't drink. I knew that she didn't because she had an eating disorder. And for her, alcohol meant calories and punishment in the gym. I said, well, Casey, what do you think you need to do about this? She said, I've got to go talk to her, don't I? I said, you do. And so she and I practiced some scripts and how she could use her crucial conversation skills. And that day, she had a conversation with a girl that went like this. Can we talk about something that's important to both of us? And then she relayed the facts about the phone call. She said, did it happen that way, or did I miss something? The girl said, I might have said that. Then Casey said, how are you going to fix this? She said, I'll call all the girls that I've told that to, and I'll tell them I was mistaken. And Casey said, and how will I know that you've made those phone calls? She said, I'll ask them to call you. And that night, she got many phone calls who said, Casey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have believed it. I should have known better. This is a child that knew how to end a crucial conversation very well with a follow-up. And so then later in our mother-daughter journey, we decided, after she graduated from grad school with a master's in social work, she was really struggling trying to decide what was she going to do next with her career. And so she went through this period of indecision. I said, well, hey, why don't you think about coming along with me for an internship? And so she said, okay, that sounds like a great idea. Now, let's be clear on what I'm thinking, how this is going to go. This is Yoda. that would be me. This is Luke Skywalker, and that would be Casey. And I'm going to pass on all this amazing wisdom to her because I'm going to be her mentor, right? So we go out for our very first day of training. I teach all day long, and she observes, and we get back in the car, and I said, how do you think that went? And I'm settling in the seat, waiting for the praise. And she said, Mom, that story you told at the end of the day, really, I think it's a little dated. I think the story needs some editing and could really use some refreshing. And I looked at her and I thought, wait a second, this is not how this is supposed to go. But she was right. Then the next day it was, Mom, can we talk about the way you scrunch up your eyebrows when you're listening to somebody? It looks like you're being critical instead of, I know you're a great listener, but it looks like that's not what you're doing. Okay, Casey, I'll fix my face. The next day it was, Mom, can we talk about your wardrobe? I mean, really, Paige and Janet Reno? Okay, Casey, so change my wardrobe. But then there were more, it was clear to me that I was not the mentor and that she was the tormentor. So then we got into some more serious conversations. And she said, Mom, can I talk to you about something that's important to both of us? And I said, yes. She said, Mom, my counselor said it's time for me to talk to you about the role that you played in my eating disorder. And my heart sank. And I said, what do you mean? And so she started telling me about some things I had said to her that caused her to feel less than good about herself. And I was heartbroken to hear the unintended consequences of my words. And then we started exploring, where did body image come from? How do we feel about ourselves? She said, where did your messages come from? And I remembered that I had a relative in our extended family who used to say, your cousin's the normal one, you're the fat one in the family. And she and I realized that we need to change the stories we told inside our heads about our bodies, the things we said to one another, and we made a commitment that everyone we came in contact with, that we would lift them up and not allow this terrible cycle to continue. And then I said, hey, how do you feel about that girl that started the rumor about you? She said, Mom, she's damaged. Her family's damaged. And I think that damaged people sometimes damage other people. I have forgiven her. She said, but I'll also tell you this. She used to have a bad pattern of doing that until she came in contact with me. And then she said, Mom, let's talk about Bill just for a minute. Wonder why he harassed you like that. And that was a great question. I had never thought about that before. So I did some exploration in Bill's background to find out what was going on. And I found out he was severely abused as a child and really came out of that experience with an, I'm going to get them before they get me. And the hatred was gone from my heart and replaced with compassion, and realized that he was a sad individual. And then I went back and I contacted the external psychologist and recalled for him the events. He said, oh, Sharon, he said, thank you so much for calling me. He said, I thought about that event so many times. He said, the reason why I called your manager is I thought I could help you. I thought I could make an advance phone call and make things so much better. I never anticipated the harsh reaction that I got from him. And did I cross an ethical line? Yes, I did. And I am so sorry. That is not what I intended. Now, that's not the story I carried around all those years, because the story was that the two of them were colluding. I never thought about the fact that he may be trying to help me. And so I filled my heart with forgiveness as a result of this. Here's what I know. You can go back. You can. So many times we think that we can't go back and master our stories. It's too long. Now, the question you may ask yourself is, did you ever talk to Bill? Sadly, I didn't. And I'll tell you why. Because by this stage of the game, Bill had passed away. But I'm also glad that the memories that I have of him are far different from the ones that I carried around all those years. Crucial conversations really have no shelf life. 12 years had gone by since I talked to the company psychologist. 12 years. Now, we all know that sooner is better than later, but I'll tell you, later is better than never. And so if you've got some crucial conversations that you have been holding on to that you have not held, do something about that. Don't be like I was and carrying all that baggage around for all those years. Because one of the most amazing byproducts that we have of crucial conversations that I don't think we talk enough about is forgiveness. It's one of the most amazing things that we can actually take away for us and for them. And so as I look at our conversations through the generations, I know that my grandmother is a better person because we talked to her about using that slur word. What happened to her? Well, she sent herself back to college when she was 45, graduated when she was 51, became a very beloved biology teacher for 20 years for students of all races, and they absolutely love her. She is 106 now. And I often think about the fact that what if we had made this excuse, she's old, we should just let her keep doing it. What a sad fool's choice that would have been for us. My parents absolutely continue to show us that unconditional love, and I will tell you, they have been tested in ways that no one should be tested. For me, I know that when I gave Bill back his humanity, I got my humanity back as well. So it's important to understand that when I quit hating him and being angered by him, I was a better person as a result of that. And as for Casey, I know that she's better at her age than I was at her age. So where is Casey now? Well, she worked her way through college working at Disney, and they called her back and said, we would like for you to come back and continue your work as a seasonal. So she went down there intending on staying just a few weeks to finish her time out. Then she called and said, Mom, this is where I'm supposed to be. I said, all right, stay down there. A few weeks later, Mom, they've called and said they want me to apply for a leadership position here inside the organization. There were 600 applicants, internal applicants, 27 people were picked, and one was Casey. And so she was actually supposed to be on the stage with me today, but she couldn't come because she was selected for a brand new assignment. And what did they say to her? They picked her for this assignment because, number one, she can have tough conversations and she's skilled at it. She holds people accountable in a way that's respectful like they've never seen before, and she's an influencer. So I think that's pretty amazing. So what kind of phone calls do I get now? Mom, you are not gonna believe this. I had a cast member who was failing. He was living out of his car. He was struggling. He couldn't get his medicine for schizophrenia. He was going bankrupt. He was getting a divorce. And she said, I sat down with him. I said, hey, help me understand what's going on. He said, you're not gonna fire me, are you? She said, how's that gonna help you? We need to set you up for success. I ran into him yesterday. Mom, he's going to school now. He and his wife got back together again. He's on his meds. He said, she's so much better. And he said, that conversation that I had with him made all the difference in the world. There was another woman who was being bullied by other cast members. Casey sat down and gave her a crash course in how to have a crucial conversation. She said, I ran into her, and she said that everything's been straightened out, then she's doing better than ever before. Teach your children well, and they will teach you and the rest of the world in return. Thank you so very much.